Good evening, my fellow St. Lucians at home and abroad. As I sat there waiting for my moment to address you, I engaged in some profound reflection and introspection. In particular, I mused on philosophical approach that this government has taken towards the development of our country, or more precisely, the underdevelopment of St. Lucia. And I thought of this great and iconic Nobel laureate, Sir Arthur Lewis, a man who has shown distinction in the world of thought and practice. A man who devoted his entire life to solving the problems of underdevelopment. I wondered for a moment what this great man would be thinking about the current trajectory of St. Lucia's development being pursued by the Alan Shastney-led administration. And you know, I concluded that Sir Alva must be turning in his grave, lamenting the foolishness, or may I say the counterintuitive policies being advocated in the name of development. He must be bewildered about how this motion of development by industrialization, by invitation, has been transformed into a grotesque and perverse form of the Friends, Family, and Foreigners, FFF, approach to development. Because there are three major advantages to the development strategy of industrialization by invitation. One, the inflow of foreign capital, or what is called foreign direct investment, bringing in much needed foreign exchange and scarce capital for development. Two, to transfer technology and skills. And three, to provide much needed employment, to address high levels of unemployment in small, vulnerable economies like ours. It means that the more foreign direct investment you attract into this country, you are supposed to be equipping more St. Lucians with the financial resources to make an effective demand for goods and services. And ultimately, you'd have more people in the country being employed. You have foreign monies coming into the country. The ultimate intention of this strategy is to benefit the citizens of this country by providing higher levels of income and by providing much needed revenue to the government for financing major sectors of the economy, including education, health, security, social services, and infrastructure. However, when one examines what is happening in this country, what foreigners have been doing in the name of development, it cannot pass the litmus test as set by Sir Alva. Bringing in money, transfer of skills and technology, and providing employment to the people of this country. Cabot Links, DSH, and Ojo Labs will fail miserably. And so tonight, I want to indicate very clearly that anytime foreigners come to this country and invest, what we call foreign direct investment, the government and the foreign entity must establish that symbiotic relationship. It cannot be a parasitic type of relationship. And so what we have been seeing with Ojo Labs is the government spending millions of dollars to retrofit buildings and to pay the salaries of workers. This is not foreign direct investment. When you look at a country like ours that's locked into a narrow band of policy options, it is financially draining for us to be pumping millions of dollars into foreign entities in the name of FDI. Maybe if you want to call it FDI, it could be a financially draining initiative. Cabot Links, which is owned by a Canadian billionaire, was given a loan by the NIC for over $30 million to undertake the controversial golf course project. The government of Canada will never ever give any St. Lucian any loan from the Canadians' pension funds to go and build golf course, especially if it involves desecrating sensitive areas in Canada that are important to civil society. And so if you are going to desecrate our areas, this is foreign destructive interference. You can call it FDI. Foreign destructive interference. And you know, only recently, we saw a cabinet conclusion to approve the lease of the Queen's Chain. And this government has disregarded all advice that it has gotten from the technocrats in this country. And so at this juncture, we have examined Ojo Labs, Cabot Links. Let us get down to business with DSH. The so-called Pearl of the Caribbean project. And I will give it careful and sensible treatment at this juncture. The government literally donated approximately 1,000 acres of land to DSH at a nominal fee of $1 per acre with a 99-year lease. DSH relies on our passport money through the CIP for projects it will undertake. The Prime Minister has admitted that the horse race track will be a loss-making venture. And the tragic comedy continues with the Prime Minister saying that the government will buy this loss-making venture and will allow DSH to manage it for a fee. Which businessman buys a business and would pay the seller of the loss-making business a profit to continue running the business? So much for running the country as a business. Prime Minister Chasney further said that the horse racing track was built to operate as a loss leader and attract new investment. So use it as bait to attract new investment. It has been over 4 years, and we have not seen one investment. Like the majority of St. Lucians, I am perplexed as to how the government decided to go ahead with the DSH project. A project of such magnitude would have required a rigorous cost-benefit analysis by the technocrats before government would take a decision to approve it. I was informed that no such review was undertaken by any technocrats whatsoever, and now we are paying for this ill-fated decision of the government. Fellow St. Lucians, should we be surprised that the Chasney government has plunged our country into this self-imposed fiscal mess? We are now hearing that payables, that is the amount owed by the government, has skyrocketed and payments are being significantly delayed. In fact, reports reaching us indicate that the government is spending much more than it's receiving revenues, and therefore the bills are accumulating at the Treasury. Therefore, the Minister for Finance should with due urgency present the latest forecast for economic growth, revenue collections, and very importantly, the debt to GDP ratio forecast for the end of this financial year. St. Lucians are becoming very frightened at what is happening with the state of the finances of the country now, as it appears that everything is being done expediently for the upcoming general elections, COVID or no COVID. Brothers and sisters, fellow St. Lucians, even the most extreme pessimists would have thought that this Chasney-led administration would have utilized this period of socioeconomic crisis made worse by COVID-19 as an opportunity to redefine the social pact, including putting well-being at the center of public policies and moving towards stronger social protection systems, and defining a sustainable development strategy where all actors are involved. St. Lucians are desperately crying out for a new democratic order in which the cost of development reflects the will of the majority. engages all stakeholders, and reflects the value of equality. In fact, utilizing the fiscal framework of this country to purchase, according to ECLAC, the durable thread of social cohesion to suture the open wounds of inequality, which have been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic. What we are seeing in this country is very, very, very clear that under this government, we are facing growing conditions of inequality and the accumulation of wealth in the hands of a few households, with large sectors of our country being excluded. So just a few persons in this country are benefiting, and everybody else is shut out. I now wish to turn to the significant cost of the DSH project and to highlight in particular the budgetary impact of this project on the government and ultimately the citizens of this country. The global pandemic has created untold suffering to St. Lucians, resulting in thousands of jobs losses and putting many St. Lucians on the breadline and below the poverty line. It is the responsibility of any caring government to provide relief to its citizens, to help sustain them during this pandemic. The government, which has squandered its revenue, has instead decided to use the pensioners' money, namely the NIC funds, to provide economic relief to its contributors. The unbudgeted NIC money used to grant economic relief will have long-term adverse consequences for the NIC. And a responsible government should have adopted other options to provide relief to its citizens. The overriding challenge in this period, if the country has to move to a higher trajectory of development, is employment creation and the reduction in the number of citizens dependent on social welfare. So linking it to foreign direct investment, the more foreign direct investment we have bringing in new monies and creating employment, more people will be getting out of welfare, and at the same time, the reach and efficiency of social security would improve. And those who are in the informal sector can now be on NIC. So at least when they get to pensionable age, they are not going to depend on the charity of Salvation Army and others in this country, the church, etc. Had the government not engaged in this ill-fated DSH project, it could have provided much greater support to its citizens. Over the past 4 years, we have been cautioning this government, stop squandering the resources of this country, because there will come a time when we will be confronted with a national emergency that we have to respond with lightning rapidity, like COVID-19. And during this period, when people are suffering, when people are losing their jobs and falling into poverty, the government has started paying for the unnecessary Larry Shoes Viewfort Diversion Road built to accommodate the horse race track. This road, which cost $13.6 million, was built under a design finance construct arrangement. In this year's estimate, an amount of $3.2 million is allocated for this project to be financed from bonds. After paying this amount, the loan balance on this project is $8.3 million. DSH demands also require the government to relocate the Boseju Agricultural Station. This project is costing taxpayers $8 million, which is borrowed from the NIC, of which $3.1 million has been spent so far, and $1.7 million is allocated in this year's budget. The source of the funding for this project is the IMF Rapid Credit Facility, the funds that were intended for income support and health-related expenditure during COVID-19. So even during this very difficult moment, this government remains callous. The government stands before the world and showing that there is absolutely no empathy. The ill-advised DSH agreement also forced the government to fast-track the closure of the Viewfort landfill. The total project cost for this is $15.5 million. of which $8.5 million has been spent. In this year's estimates, the balance of $7 million has been allocated. And again, the source of this funding is the IMF Rapid Credit Facility. We were told by the Prime Minister that the IMF money would be used for construction projects to stimulate the economy and provide jobs. This is clearly not the case for these projects, as these funds are allocated or rather diverted or deflected to meet other commitments of the government. The total cost of these free projects, to which the government has diverted public funds as a result of its DSH deal, is $37 million. This does not include replacing the new meat processing plant, which we have been told will be constructed at another site. And the total amount allocated in this year's estimates for this is $11.9 million. These funds could have been used to purchase laptops for students and provide support to distressed families who are in urgent need of income support at this time. These benefits that have been given freely to T.O. King would have been better and more justifiably given to the private sector to address the spectrum of pressing issues on which chamber members are crying out for support in these difficult times. The 2020-2021 budget is a hot mess. At the last sitting of Parliament, we were asked to approve a total of $75,700,000 US, equivalent to $204,390,000 that day. None of these projects or borrowings were included in the budget that was recently passed. So there's a whole commerce, a whole manger cochon that is going on in this country at this time. This really tells us that the current budget, which was recently passed, is a farce and does not serve its purpose of being the financial plan for the country for the fiscal year 2020-2021. Fellow St. Lucians, at the last sitting of Parliament, $20 million was approved for the Caribbean Digital Transformation Program. Based on my research, the objectives of the Caribbean Digital Transformation Program project are noble and will go a long way in developing a digital economy if implemented well. However, with the approach of this government, they can take good things and destroy it. So even when the project is good, they implement it in a way that is bad news. And let me just illustrate the point. Do you know that the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project was not featured in the budget and was not even mentioned in the budget speech? This is a major omission, as the project was not conceptualized yesterday and should have been included in the budget. Based on the budget presented, the total cost for capital projects for public sector modernization in the fiscal year 2020-21 is $87,564,161. When the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project is added, the total project cost for public sector modernization jumps to $141.6 million. History is indeed replete with many ICT projects becoming failures. Therefore, we need to ensure that our scarce resources, especially in this COVID environment, are spent wisely. In this regard, and as I prepare to effect a safe landing, it is important to look at how well our ICT projects are performed, especially the World Bank-funded ICT projects. The first project funded by the World Bank was the 2008 Electronic Government for Regional Integration Project, or IGRI, as it was known. This project has as its centerpiece the implementation of the multipurpose ID card system, hardware and software, and all the training were provided to the staff. However, up to now, the multipurpose ID system has not been implemented, And this project is, for all intents and purposes, deemed a total failure. The next World Bank project funded was the Caribbean Infrastructure Communications Project, or CACIP, which is currently ongoing, for which we approved an additional loan at the sitting before the last. In this year's budget, and that is monies competing with relief to the people of this country. In this year's budget, an amount of $6,868,281 is allocated to CACIP, of which $2,794,526 is financed from the World Bank, and $4,073,755 is financed from the IMF's Rapid Credit Facility. The same IMF money that was supposed to be used for essential health expenditures, income support to workers, and cash support to households. So even when a project is good, it is competing with the well-being of the people of this country at this time. Now let us look at our main concern with CACIP, and by extension, what could possibly happen to the CDT project, and serve as a lesson learned. Based on the figures in the current estimates, the total project cost of CACIP is $27,150,820, of which $18,112,758 was spent as at March 31st, 2020. However, in the budget for 2019-2020, the total project cost was $20,554,884, and $13 million was expended as of March 31st, 2019. The Prime Minister and Minister for Finance has provided no explanation whatsoever as to why, under his watch, in this year, the project cost increased by a staggering amount of $6.5 million, or 42%. Where has the money gone? This is an administration which prides itself on avoiding cost overruns. But we now know how it conceals such overruns by avoiding the tendering process and granting inflated direct awards to its friends, family, and foreigners. So St. Lucians want to know why such large cost overruns on this project. I am now on final approach. Both of these projects had noble intentions, but seem to have been implemented poorly. Further, we have a project in 2020-21 estimates called ICT Evolution, and again, of $45 million, of which $10 million is allocated this year, and again, financed from the IMF Rapid Credit Facility. And so, my brothers and sisters, it seems reasonable to infer that there is that fetish for companies from the East. For most of this ICT, we have one from Singapore that has a contract, and out of a total project cost of $15.6 million, $13.2 million was allocated to consultancy. So the total amount, $15.6 million, $13.2 million is for consultancy. So we have Crimson Logic from Singapore, we have DSH with Tioa King from Malaysia, we have Permandu again from Malaysia, we have Health City, which is from India. It is, if this is no reason for us to worry, then we better pack up. We must therefore be concerned that the combined cost of this project is $99.5 million, just under $100 million. Given this government's poor record of ICT, I have serious concerns about the future. Where you have a facility to bring relief to the people of this country are being used for all sorts of projects. And so, in just about touching down, I say that this Allen-led administration, from June 6, 2016, has showed no compassion for the poor and vulnerable, and has no commitment to the public welfare. From June 6, 2016, it appears before the world as a callous government which is devoid of empathy. By wasting tens of millions of dollars of our country on Ojo Labs, Cabot Links, DSH, at the expense of our development, we are denied the use of our own resources to reduce poverty and inequality in this country. If this continues, we will have no St. Lucia. We will have no land. So we'll have no land, no light, nothing in this place. The UWP is on a path to destroy us. My simple and urgent message to you tonight is that we must put an end to this UWP administration before it puts an end to us. Good night, my fellow St. Lucians.